You know, sometimes it's the funniest things that catch my eye, and this road sign opposite about cyclists and the fact that there are lots of cyclists passing right by it sparked an idea in my head about capturing fast-moving cyclists in front of a very static cycle sign. Right, first things first, health and safety. As much as I want that give way to cyclist sign to fill my frame, in order to do that, I'm not going to be able to zoom with my feet because this is a busy road. There's 2 cycleways in front of us here. So I'm going to have to zoom with my camera on this side of the road instead, nice and safely. And to get the optimal frame, I'm actually going to go 4 times in. It should be fine. Now, whenever you do zoom in, whether it's a smartphone camera or even a big camera, the risk is that you introduce a bit of wobble. And that's because even slight movements are exaggerated when on the other end of a zoom. So really is a case of digging your elbows in, holding that camera as tight as you possibly can. But there is another trick to remove camera wobble a bit. Anyway, I'll come to that in a moment. So now it's a question of waiting for the cyclists to come by. And there are a lot of, well, distractions on this road. There's a lot of vehicles passing by. And thankfully, there are a lot of cyclists as well. So I won't have to wait too long for a cyclist to come along. In fact, here's a cyclist now. So this is where, let's see, it's about timing really. Cyclist is going to pass frame. Here we go. I get a couple of opportunities to take a picture there, and there's another one. But timing's really, really difficult. One thing I'm noticing here is, I think it's shutter lag. And that is the difference in time between you pressing the button to take the picture and the camera actually capturing that exposure. And there can be a number of reasons why that gap might be longer than you might like it to be. It could just be the speed of the phone, could be the camera settings that you're using. One thing, if you are having difficulty with that, might be to check if the HDR, the high dynamic range mode, is turned on, because that can take several exposures at once. That can slow things down a little bit. So I'm going to turn off HDR here. So with a manual timing, let's give it a go. One more time. Good. And then 2 more. Now, one more thing with timing that can really help stack the odds in your favor and to remove a bit of that camera wobble is burst mode. Now, burst mode takes a number, and it'll vary from phone to phone, a number of images in very, very quick succession and then let you choose your best image later on. It can be really handy for scenes like this where the action is quite fast moving. So, normally you just press down the shutter button and it'll initiate that burst mode. Let's have a go with that. Here's a cyclist, let's give it a go. Aha. Now that hasn't done quite what I expected it might. You see, it's actually recording video now. And I'm moving the shutter around and actually all it's doing is recording video, and I think I know why that is. So if I go into my phone settings, it's actually under more settings here. Press and hold shutter is currently set to record video. More and more often I find that cameras have this setting enabled by default, and if you want to enable burst mode, you have to go and change a setting. Burst shot. That's what I want for this shot. And so if you experience the same thing, then just check in the settings if there's a way of changing it back into burst mode. Here's a cyclist. Let's see if burst mode is going to work for us. There we go. Now what I will say is that you still need to work on your timing here, because those 20 frames go by very, very quickly. So if you go too soon, then you'll have got through your burst before the cyclist has even entered the frame. Let's see if we can get maybe one more cyclist. Here's one more. And one more. That was nicely timed, actually. I think I've got plenty of pictures, particularly with burst mode enabled, of cyclists on here. Let's see if any of them have come out quite how I want them, though. This is a shot that I took when I was trying to manually time my exposure, and well, it's hilariously bad in quite a few ways, which in some ways I think makes it quite good. So first of all, I'm a little bit wonky with regards to my verticals and that give way sign. Secondly, perhaps because of the shutter lag, I'm pretty sure I tried to take this image when my cyclist was midway across the frame, but by the time the camera captured the shot, she was all the way at the end and kind of running off the frame, but still quite a comical take. And then also I've got this car in the foreground between me and the other side of the road. So lots of reasons why in a way this photo shouldn't work, but at the same time, I do find it quite charming, if I'm honest. Right, burst mode enabled. However, I think I was a bit eager. So I can select the frames, all 20 or so of them, but I went a bit early. So by the time my cyclist appears on the frame, I'm already through my 20, so I'd miss all of my cyclist's journey across the frame. The most that I've got is him peeking off the left. So if there's an illustration as to why even when you have burst mode enabled, you still need to work on your timing, then this is it. This shot is nicely framed and nicely timed as well, with my cyclist pretty much in the center of the frame and framed themselves by the bit of street furniture on the other side. And if I take a look at the burst, I can see it's well timed. I've got plenty of coverage of the cyclist as they enter the frame and then leave it. But this one here, which I can select as my favorite, is the one that's absolutely the winner for me.